Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one's entitled Aliens Are Lying to Goode and David Wilcock, Einstein's Gravity Theory. Now, Planet X, I have discovered, is not a star, a brown dwarf, or a planet. The idea that Planet X, which was supposed to be some huge planet or small star, and that it was going to go through the solar system and cause cataclysmic events, was the idea that I, like everyone else on this planet, was exposed to. And that's the idea I started from when I started investigating what was going on in the solar system. It turned out that the truth was much stranger than anything I could have imagined. The objects which could be observed in the sun's corona did not behave like anything that a physics education could have prepared me for, because they did not seem to obey known physical laws. They were obviously solid, massive objects, but they did not act like massive objects are supposed to. They could hover in the sun's inner corona right above the sun's surface and yet did not collide with it, as if they had gotten as close as they could and could not get any closer. And you see some of these objects hovering in the sun's corona here in these SDO images, and they make some kind of connection with the sun as well. And here's one in the Earth's atmosphere, and these objects come into the solar system with a cloud envelope which is made out of water, liquid water in the form of little droplets. And this is because the cores of planets and stars actually create water. And I've explained that in several other articles, but this is why they always come in with a cloud envelope. Now, they could also traverse the sun inside the sun's corona at a speed much lower than the sun's escape velocity, another thing which is supposed to be impossible. So I had to come up with new physics, a new way to describe gravity in order to explain what I observed. And in the process, I found out that these objects come into the solar system as comets. You may look at Article 367 for details on that. And that they are the cores of what was once living or working stars, planets and moons, depending on size, as it is only size that seems to determine how a celestial object ends up operating. The large ones end up as stars which emit light, and the smaller ones end up as planets or moons. All the cores are able to create matter, but the larger ones create more matter on a continuous basis and thus have what we call a stellar wind. And you may look at Book 3 and Book 10 for details on that. Now here you see one of these objects traversing the sun inside the sun's corona. You can actually see it entering the sun's corona because part of it looks red, and that's the part that's inside the corona already, and part of it is black. And part of that black part can be seen in front of the red background, which is corona behind it. You can see here it's now inside the sun's corona. That's why it looks red. There's corona between the back of the object and the detector. That's why it looks red. And here it's starting to exit. You can see the part that's starting to come out of the corona is now darker. And you can see the same thing here. It's starting to exit there already. And you can see it's leaving the corona now, and the part that's inside still looking red because it is corona in front of it, between it and the detector. Now, this object was about 2.2 times the size of Jupiter, and it took 10 hours to traverse the sun and was thus traveling at 39 kilometers per second. But the sun's escape velocity is 616 kilometers per second. So this means that this object should never have been able to leave the sun. But that's what we observe. It came in and it went out, and so it did not collide with the sun like you would expect a normal massive object to do. And this behavior shows that it's not about mass, because if the object had low mass or high mass, it wouldn't matter. It would have collided with the sun. A high mass object would have gone into a very short orbit around the sun. We don't see that because it goes right into the sun's corona, and then it keeps on going in a straight line. So this object did not obey known laws. It didn't seem to obey gravitational law. So it's not about mass. But if this object did not feel, in inverted commas, a gravitational attraction because the interaction strength is very low, then it can act as if the sun has a very low mass. And it has very low mass as well. And that means that the two objects can just pass by each other without actually detecting much of an attraction to each other because the gravitational strength between the two is very small. And this is how you can tell that it's not actually the mass of the object that's in question. What is different is the gravitational strength, and that refers to a constant we call the gravitational constant. So the only way these objects could possibly act in such a way is that the gravitational interaction strength is not constant. The gravitational interaction strength is given by the gravitational constant G in Newton's universal law of gravitation, and it can therefore not be constant. It turns out that G is dependent on gravitational energy, which is light or photons, which exist within matter, and leads to the understanding that all energy and matter come from light and are made of light. It is easy to deal with the fact that G is not constant in Newton's law. G is given by this equation. This is the magnitude of the gravitational attraction between two masses, capital M and little m. And G is the gravitational constant, and R is the distance between the two masses. But this is because Newton's gravity law, given by this equation, is a mathematical way of fitting observational data, like Kepler's law, and makes no assumptions about what gravity is. Also, since G and M, which is always appears together, a lower than expected G leads to the perception of a much lower than expected mass. In other words, G not being constant leads to the idea of an effective mass. So in a calculation, we can take G to be constant and just lower M instead, and the equation will still give us results that will work, because they always appear together, the G and the M. So if G is low, M is actually much higher than it would seem to be if someone is trying to measure M using Kepler's third law or something like that. But in Einstein's general theory of relativity, G not being constant completely destroys the theory from beginning to end. It is not viable, it is not true, and it cannot be modified to fit the real universe in any way. It is unsalvageable. And this is Einstein's or general relativity field equations. So this is a set of equations where this R mu nu is the Ricci curvature tensor, which is used to determine how the curvature of space differs from a flat space. And this T mu nu is the stress tensor, the stress energy tensor. And it contains energy and momentum of matter or fields in space, and is deemed as the source of gravitational fields. And that in itself is not wrong, because I also said that gravity starts from the gravitational energy inside particles. So the gravitational energy inside particles is the source of the gravitational field. But the problem is that G is not constant. G is dependent on something that's inside the T. And that makes this equation completely unworkable. Whatever solution you get out of that, well, the only solution that will work is the zero solution. Any non-zero solution to these equations are absolute nonsense, because G is not constant. But apparently, in a cosmic disclosure interview, David Wilcock and Goode indicated that the aliens had not found much wrong with Einstein's general theory of relativity. How is that possible? Well, it is possible because the aliens either serve the father of lies, Lucifer, the reptilian king, or they, flesh and blood beings, have been deceived by them and the immortal aliens with him themselves. Lucifer decided 6,000 years ago to raise his throne above us, the stars of God, and is keeping us captive whilst using our energy. And you may look at Article 624 entitled Planet X and the movie Star Wars reveal the truth about who we are. They are not telling any human being the truth. They are simply leading humans along with deception and elaborate made-up stories. So, in conclusion, the fact that the gravitational constant G is not constant but dependent on the amount of gravitational energy or light inside the particles making up a celestial object shows that Einstein's general theory of relativity, or his gravitational theory, is wrong and unsalvageable. It also shows that aliens serve the reptilian king, and just like their reptilian king are lying to humans like Goode and David Wilcock, and through them to many others. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.